welcome back to episode 6 of Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sean.
And we are 6 times glad you're here. Thanks for being with us today. A couple things. This is your first time tuning in with us, we spend about 15 minutes talking about salespeople challenges, sales leadership challenges, and we draw this from our experience. Sean and I have built successful careers in a multitude of industries, so we got a lot of experience to draw from, and we're happy to share that with you. But for this next 15 minutes, we're going to spend time talking about specifically, and I've got my question here because Sean's going to tell you why we've got questions here. How does salespeople retain client information and document sales opportunities? So Sean, tee us up here with why we ask these questions.
Yeah, so one of the worst things that can happen in sales is your salesperson leaves. Now, there's lots of reasons the salesperson might leave, right? They got sick, let's hope they're okay. Maybe they're not okay. It's the end of their career. Maybe they just got frustrated. They went to somebody else in your industry or somebody outside your industry, whatever. So you want to always make sure that you are documenting everything that's going on, and you have a good ability for that new sales rep. And sometimes that sales person is being promoted into a different role in the company, and they don't want to spend time, this is what's going on in that account. This is what's going on in that account, right? So you need that good documentation to be there. And it's important to gather that along the way because you're trying to remember it, after the fact is a pain.
Yeah, so my red flags just went off like crazy. Not because of what you said, it's because I see this challenge so much with businesses. Let's take a real world example. Let's pretend, and I'm sure this would not happen in any of the people listening to your businesses, but let's just pretend for a minute that somebody's using email, right? Gmail, Outlook, and they've got contacts there. And maybe they use one of those Android phones where they've got a separate list of contacts that's not synchronized. And maybe they also use an email platform like, MailChimp or something. And then they got a CRM that got synchronized late but didn't push all the contacts over there. Now, what I've just described is fairly common, right?
Very common. And yeah, I'm going to add another database. Then there's a support person in the company, and they're using a different tool to track phone calls and warranty issues and whatever that might be, right?
Yeah, and that's completely separate from marketing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's good to call these things out because these are real things, real places where data lives. So the purpose of us talking about how do we capture client prospect information and then track it against opportunities is really important because now we've just identified 6 or 7 places where this data can live. So now it's really important in this digital age for us to be good information managers. Now, please don't stop listening. I'm not here to talk about database management here. What we're talking about here, though, is good data health. Why? Because it drives revenue. And that's why we're all here, right? We're all pushing that top line and trying to keep some left over on the bottom line, right?
Exactly right. It's also good. So a lot of our companies are relatively small. They are very founder-led in a variety of their disciplines. And that founder may at some time want to leave that company, or maybe, they don't have a choice. They have to leave the company, and they want the company to continue past their time. If all of the information is spread out everywhere, the value is significantly reduced because now nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's confused. Everybody's lost, right? So having a good place to save data, keep data around. And it's not just about CRMs. It's things like Dropbox or Box or whatever that you can save data in. It's good use of note-taking tools if they're not in a CRM, perhaps OneNote or Evernote or some tool like that. So there's lots of ways to make sure that you are saving data about your client history, about your interactions with your clients, and making sure that it's able to be used and reused.
Completely agree. And if you haven't caught episode 5, our last episode, we talk about having a defined sales process and CRMs and why that data that Sean just described goes with different stages of opportunities and then follows the opportunity until the time that prospect becomes a customer or the customer becomes a customer again, rebuys from you. We want to establish those relationships. But data health and data cleanliness, don't let those terms scare you. Those are really important terms for anybody who has responsibility to customer relationships or management, because that data becomes how you grow and lean in and scale your operations, your business. So, but let's take that data from the customer standpoint, but let's also relate it to the other part of this question. And that's how do we document the sales opportunities with data? So Sean, I'm going to tee you up here. I'm going to say custom fields and standard fields.
There
Go.
you go. So standard fields, just about every CRM system. By the way, CRM is a tool that helps you manage customer relations, right? So CRM as a software product is just a tool. The thing that you're trying to do is manage that customer relationship. So there are certain standard tools that just about every CRM or contact database has: name, address, zip code, phone numbers, email addresses, a couple other things that are just pretty standard across the board. And then there are the things that are unique to you as a company. To what do I need to keep track of? What industry are they in? Perhaps I need to keep track of who their competitors are. Maybe I have to keep track of their annual report information. Whatever the case may be, things that you might have to keep track of to make sure you satisfy your customer. But you need to have some custom fields capability. Just about every CRM on the planet now has that capability of adding custom fields. But you need to be really careful about required fields. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Salespeople are inherently lazy. We don't want to do anything that doesn't add immediate value to us, even if it adds value to somebody else. So you need to be kind of careful on required fields, on how many required fields. So I've literally worked for companies before where I've walked in and they have 100 required fields on a new customer, a new company. That's a lot of required fields that have to get answered right up front. And what happens is, well, I don't know, because it's a brand new client. We don't know yet. So therefore, if we don't know, we put I don't know or NA or whatever. And now it's just junk from that point on, because nobody goes back and fixes that because it's satisfied that requirement, right? Of getting that client or that customer field, that custom field filled out. So I think it's important to realize that it has to be enough information that is valuable, but not so much information that it's so tedious that you can't actually do your job.
Completely agree. Couple quick examples of where we might use custom fields. You and I both have ERP software, accounting software experience. I typically start with stuff that we can auto match. So when you create something new in a CRM, we use a customer account number from an ERP resource plan. And that's something that a salesperson should not have to enter. That should be an auto match when their credit is approved, those kinds of things. The fun thing that we could probably play a lot of games with is how many special characters are we allowing to use? So, AAA or AAA or A space A kind of naming conventions, those can really trip up sales teams. And that's where we want to really as sales leaders, we want to worry about those to make sure we don't have duplicate accounts. That's an important thing, right? So when we're managing the customer data and information, we need to have some guidelines. But again, to Sean's point, we don't want to have multiple required fields and multiple points of entry just to create a record for somebody we met at a trade show, right? We just don't know enough yet.
Right.
So
I think it's interesting what you said there about the ERP system, and I think I want to lean into that really quickly. Just because you met somebody at that trade show or at whatever, that doesn't mean that they should be in the ERP system. So don't make that a required thing, right?
Right, absolutely. And on the flip side of that, how we create an opportunity is equally as important. So Sean, I love the way you described, when you're creating an account, but also when you're creating an opportunity. I work with a lot of junior reps, mid-level reps, and then senior reps, like enterprise type accounting reps, account sales reps. And one of the big differentiators in the deals is how they're entered, right? Mm-hmm. The existing customers, you already know a lot more. You have contacts that are, economic buyers versus accounting contacts versus AP or something junior level contacts, support contacts, IT contacts. You know a lot more about the ecosphere within a customer, right? But when you're at the prospect level and you've got this early stage deal, how far do you go with a description of the deal and an initial scope versus a final scope, and how much do you let that evolve? I have some opinions, but I'm curious to know yours.
Sure. So I actually fall on the guidelines, and I said this at our last episode, which so it's kind of interesting. The book called Qualified Sales Advisors by John McMahon. In that book, he talks about MEDIC. I actually use a format of that called MedPick that I usually teach my clients. The I is identification of goal or identification of pain, whatever, however you want to I term that I. But that I is really, really important because you need to have that relatively quickly. So for me, that is like the very first thing I want to ask a sales rep. Therefore, it's the very first thing that they have to fill out in that CRM system for that stages that we're going to go through that we talked about last week. But what, just tell me, what does the customer want to do? What, I mean, literally tell me in your words what you think that the customer's goal is for doing this, for working with you, Mr. Sales Guy, on this project. Do they Are they trying to save money? Are they trying to increase money? Are they trying to stop their customers from leaving? Are they trying to what is the case, right? So what are they trying to do? And if you can't say that at a high level, then it's probably just a name right now, and that's perfectly fine for a sales rep, but it shouldn't be then propagated up so that everybody in the company is looking at this opportunity that literally it's just, I think there's a heartbeat at this company. I haven't yet talked to them, and that's okay because we all got to start there. So that first level of that CRM, that first stage, should be very, 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 I think there's a heartbeat at this company, but I'm not sure if that heartbeat works.
Right. The foggy mirror test is not a good indicator of the actual value or probability of a deal closing. So documenting the opportunity, I typically require 2 to 3 minimal pieces of information, right? There can always be more. Less is not really desirable because you just don't know enough and can't communicate enough. If you get hit by the turnip truck, it's tough for somebody to pick that up with a limited amount of information and carry that deal forward. But definitely the person you're talking to in their role, so a who, and your hypothesis at least of what value they're trying to buy,
right,
or what they could potentially use from your market basket, right? Why have a sales call? Have a hypothesis. It's in my mind, limitedly different from a prospecting call. What hypothesis do you have for a reason when they pick up the phone to talk to you? Why should they even talk to you? If you don't know that, we need to revisit your value proposition for a reason to outreach there first before we talk about any other opportunities.
And a lot of times, if you don't know that one thing, sorry to interrupt you, I apologize,
Right.
but I didn't want to leave it because we're running tight on it, close to our 15 minutes here. If you don't know that one thing, that is a good reason why that prospect is quote unquote ghosting you or caspering you, because you don't know why they want to do anything, and they don't know why they're actually talking to you either, because people will reply back if they know that you're trying to buy something for a good reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think the takeaway from today here is that there's a lot of opportunity to manage deals more effectively, right? This is the kind of thing that Sean and I wrestle with every day, every week, every month with our clients. We talk about, process, cadence. I talk about medium and method, meaning, do we text them? Do we email? Do we call? How do we communicate our value proposition? So when we're talking about capturing data about customers and prospects and managing data therefore all the way up to and through the opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity for you as a CEO, COO, sales leader, or salesperson to manage data better. So if you've got some questions like that or similar ones, I think Sean and I would like to talk to you about how we can help you build a better mousetrap.
I agree 100%. So I'm going to wrap this up now. And maybe at the end, after I wrap up, you can tell them what we're going to do for episode 7 in a week. But anyway, for this episode 6, so we are doing 10 questions that are in what we call our sales agility assessment. So this is an assessment that Kevin and I will give to a client prior to them becoming a client, so we can kind of figure out, does it make sense for us to engage? Does it make sense for us to work with you? If you answered the right answer for all 10 questions, then we have to say, well, maybe we can't help you as much as if you answered all of them wrong. It's important, though, that you understand why they're important. That's why we are doing this session here. We're going to do more of these. We're going to do these every week, 4:30 on Tuesday. So please come and listen in. When we get done with those 10 questions, we hope to have a lot of other questions that we can then talk about. We have a couple in our heads, but we would love to hear from you. Please put in a comment down below what questions you might have that we should address in a future episode of Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. Kevin, what are we
Absolutely.
going to do next week?
Good. Glad you asked. So we're episode 7, lucky number 7, and we're going to talk about not luck, but actual compensation plans, and are they ready to roll out before January 1st? Because every year you need to update your compensation plan. So look for that next Tuesday at 4:30, and we'll talk about money and how you pay people effectively.
That sounds like fun. Thank you very much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next week.